right, let's go and get started with the show. All right, guys. This is Devil's Advocate, a.k.a. Dion McNeil, a.k.a. the angriest man alive, who's a journalist. Now, that being said, we have a new subscriber, guys. Justo K. James and Jeremichi McGill. Welcome to the channel, guys. Today, we're going to be discussing several things. Mainly around the election, but also some of the other news that you guys might have actually missed. So, on this channel and on this show, we take from various different sources, not just from Fox News, not just from CNN, not just from MSNBC, not just from Newsmax, but from different sources, and we do that intentionally, so that we can cover the same stories and see how different people are viewing it. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So we're gonna go over to the live scene real quick. Set up a window catcher. Let's go ahead and make sure we get everything set up just right. Right. So we're gonna go ahead and do a window capture real quick, and that should grab the window that I'm looking for. Window captures with Streamlabs is always so difficult because sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't, and it's just a pick of the draw. A lot of times it's sometimes it just gets all confuddled. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into the news stories. Now, I'm gonna let you know today is gonna be an interesting day for news stories because, quite frankly, there are some things out there that are just grinding my gears, I would say. Grinding my gears. We'll just say it like that. All right, so let's go over to Newsmax first. Because everybody wants to bring up Newsmax. Everybody on the right is like, oh, Newsmax, they put out real news. Okay? All right. So first story is going to be Barr kept quiet. The U.S. Attorney General Barr kept quiet about 200 Biden probes for 2 months. Let me go ahead and tell you the first problem that I have with that story. Okay. He is the Attorney General, so of course he's going to be quiet about ongoing investigations. I don't understand why that's suddenly news, why that's so shocking. But let's go through this. Through this article. Let's see if we can spot some problems. Right now, I'm gonna let you know that the Skype line is open, and you guys can call in. You guys can let me know what you think about me in terms of if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm full of crap, if you think I'm horrible, the worst guy ever. Guess what? That's a Skype number that you can call, 253-203-6784. Again, the number is 253-203-6784. And also the number is also on the screen. Now, let's get back into the news story. So, Wall Street Journal, Barr kept quiet about 200 Biden probes for months. This is actually from This is actually originally reported from the Wall Street Journal and not Newsmax, but that's common within the media to cite other sources, but they didn't break this particular story. Now, it's not a criticism, just me pointing out a fact. This was released on today, actually, December the 11th, 2020. Attorney General Barr reportedly hid 2 federal probes involving Hunter Biden for months. The Wall Street Journal reported that Barr has known about the probes since at least the spring and worked to avoid their public disclosure during the election campaign. The reason why for that, right, is because if you were to let that story just get released from the Attorney General, what would have happened is that could have affected the results of the election. And maybe not for you who is watching, but for some people that might change votes. Now, I totally get why Barr did that, because the last thing that he wants to be doing is be injected into the middle of a freaking election. And you saw what happened when he came out and says, we didn't see any evidence of any massive, voter fraud that would have changed the outcome of the election. The right immediately turned on him. So, you know what would have happened with the left had he released that information, and that could have affected votes. Now, what Barr didn't want to become is another James Comey. James Comey, who it doesn't really matter how you view him. He's between a rock and a hard place because one day the left loves him, next day the left hates him. One day the right loves him, next day the right hates him. And Bill Barr is being very smart by trying to avoid the James Comey treatment. Okay, I don't blame him. I would do the exact same thing. So it says here, the newspaper attributed its report on Thursday to a person familiar with the matter. Who? Y'all sat here for all these years and told me that CNN pushed anonymous source after anonymous source, right? Right. And I want you to get this, right? You told me that CNN pushed so many anonymous sources and they were terrible for doing that. They were completely full of it, that I should never listen to CNN. But the issue is that now, all of a sudden, when it comes to anonymous sources, you guys aren't exactly against anonymous sources. It just depends on if the anonymous source is sourcing things that you like, right? Because let's go back to that one line, right? Because I've been noticing this with the right-wing media for quite some time. The newspaper attributed its report on Thursday to a person familiar with the matter. Now, you might say, well, that's the Wall Street Journal, but they're re-reporting it, though. So shouldn't they reach out to find out who this person familiar with the matter is? That would be actual journalism. I want you to notice all the videos that I put out, all the articles that I put out. I don't put out anonymous sources. If I can't source you by name, I won't use it. I won't write the goddamn story. You're not gonna have anonymous sources on my articles or my videos. Notice how I give you names. I give you names. I don't just leave it up to freaking chance. I give you names. I tell you who these people are because I feel that you, the American people, should definitely know who these people are. Okay. And aside from that, I just want you guys to think about this, right? Think about this. If this person is so legitimate, if they're with the Justice Department, right? If they're so, I guess, how should I say? If they have these bombshells, these major bombshells, these krakens, as they call them, krakens. The question is, when these people fail, when they turn out to be full of shit, when they turn out to be just grifters who just want you to believe what Newsmax and what the Trump administration tries to actually tell you, when it turns out that these people are full of crap, right? When it turns out that these people were just using you and making you look stupid because they know that you're going to listen to anything that they say. When it turns out that all that's true, right? My question becomes is, why is it that people never adjust their beliefs based on that? It's always interesting, right? It's always interesting when I get people who jump down my throat for just saying things that they know is true, right? All right, we have a new subscriber, Ashley Rose. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate channel, guys. Listen, guys, let's welcome Ashley Rose. You are a new subscriber. I do these shows every day at 1 p.m. each time. All right, Jimmy Lee Rozier the third. You have also subscribed to the channel. Thank you for coming to the Devil's Advocate channel, guys. I love doing this content. 1 p.m. Pacific time every day, 4 p.m. Eastern time. I run the daily Pitchfork Podcast. All right, we have Izzy Ramos. Subscribe to my channel as well. Welcome to the channel. This is awesome. All right. So we run these podcasts every day. You guys can call in. The number to call in is 253-203-6784. Wow, we are definitely getting some new subscribers. I appreciate that. I appreciate the support, guys. I appreciate everything you guys are giving me because I want to entertain you. I want to inform you. So anyways, let's go back to wow, we got yet another subscriber, Amy Lewine. I appreciate the love, guys. Definitely welcome to the channel. I will entertain you every day, guys. I'm gonna keep going. I love it. Hopefully we just get more and more subscribers. Okay. Barr's decision to keep wow, we are getting some subscribers like crazy. I love it. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All right, I appreciate what you guys. Wow, we are getting some serious. Wow, we are definitely getting some serious new subscribers, and I gotta say, I'm humbled. I am so appreciative. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Let's go back to the article though. Barr's decision to keep the lid on the probes come even as Republicans and President Donald Trump press him for months to pursue Joe Biden's son. Now, that's gonna be a problem. Let's reread that statement because I want you guys to hear that statement, right? Barr's decision to keep the lid on the probes came even as Republicans and President Donald Trump pressed him for months to pursue Joe Biden's son. Now, you understand how that comes across. It comes across like somebody is trying to get the president, not president, but trying to get the Justice Department to go after the president's enemies, right? Going after somebody's son. Now, it would almost be better if Donald Trump was asking them to go after Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton, but you're asking him to go, but you're asking Bill Barr and Justice Department to go after somebody's son, you know, who is not a politician. And that part of it, I want you guys to understand that is not only a problem, but I think that it is illegal actually to try to get, you know, Justice Department to go after your political enemies. It doesn't really matter how you see it, but if Newsmax, the one source that you guys that not you guys, but the political right told me was so much more credible than Fox News. If they're saying this, if they're saying, you know, that President Trump and Republicans, certain Republicans, I'm pretty sure that it wasn't all of them, right? We're asking, you know, Bill Barr to go after Joe Biden's son during an election year. That's a problem because even Newsmax even go on to point out this, right? But the Journal, which is the Wall Street Journal, who originally broke the story, pointed out that Justice Department guidelines caution investigators from taking any overt actions as an election nears, so that they are not seen as trying to influence the outcome, right? And that's very important because understand something. Bill Barr do you not think family members of Trump should be investigated? Like, for example, Ivanka for possible tax evasion? Yeah, sure. After the election, though, absolutely investigate especially Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner, that guy is dirty. I don't care what nobody says. I don't trust Jared Kushner as far as I can goddamn throw him. He should be investigated too. So, but the thing about it is that when it comes to Hunter Biden, when it comes to Kushner, when it comes to Ivanka, you don't want to investigate those people during an election year because then what people on certain sides of the political aisle can see it as is that you're trying to influence the outcome by pushing public opinion and and also public perception towards one side over the other. Now, let's say, for example, you are running for president, and then right in the middle of the election, we find out that you are related to Al Capone. Let's say that Al Capone was still alive right now, and you are related to Al Capone, whereas Al Capone was still doing his crime stuff, or you are like Barack Obama, and your middle name is Hussein, while we are in two different wars fighting people with names like Hussein. Right. It does matter in the outcome, right? And it definitely is going to matter in the outcome, and that's the problem. I don't think that an FBI probe or a Justice Department probe should affect the outcome of an election. If they are so guilty, then guess what? They're going to be guilty tomorrow as they were guilty right now. So no, I do not think that the Justice Department should be weaponized to go after people's political enemies, especially if you're not if you are not 100% sure that they're guilty of what they are accused of. Now, that may sound unfair. That may sound like I'm trying to protect, you know, people's political families, but that's not the case though. What I'm saying is that if a general election is coming close, the last thing that you want to do as the FBI, CIA, Homeland Security is investigate somebody that is close to that campaign, especially immediate family. I mean, we're not talking about doggone friends or or just somebody that you freaking slept with. I'm talking about immediate family, right? You don't want a campaign to not focus 100% on their campaign, and you also don't want to be seen as Jim Comey, right? You just don't want to be seen as Jim Comey. Let's move on with the article. On Thursday night, Trump blasted the FBI and the Department of Justice over the news that Hunter Biden is under federal investigation. He demanded to know why the probe wasn't announced before the November election. Well, they just explained it. That is Justice Department's policy, and it's always been their policy for quite some time now, is that they don't want to do probes near an election because they understand how that's going to be seen. No matter if you like it or not, that's just reality, right? So, according to the New York Times, let's get a better screen here. According to the New York Times, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware opened one investigation against Hunter Biden in late 2018, before his father became a presidential candidate. That's interesting. So in 2018, Delaware is a blue state. This is not a red state. That's very interesting. Again, my question becomes is, in 2018, why wasn't Trump pushing this even harder, as hard as he's pushing it now? Because if they were doing this in 2018, well, Trump was president then. And I'm not sure why they weren't going after him then. I mean, your argument is not going to be for the 2020 general election, because the fact of the matter is, no one's going to do a probe into someone's immediate family during an election year if you're running for president, because that could be seen as you affecting the outcome. But in 2018, if the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware opened an investigation, what happened to that investigation? Delaware is a blue state. A blue state couldn't do anything. Now all of a sudden you want Bill Barr to sit there and investigate Hunter Biden during a freaking election year, when even a blue state couldn't get nothing done. I mean, I don't know what you want the man to goddamn do. People think that Bill Barr is judge, jury, and executioner. He's the attorney general. There are some things that he just cannot do, and that's just life. But let's move on. It says it includes inquiries into potential violations of money laundering and tax laws. That's very interesting, because that's the exact same thing that he's being accused of right now. Right now, Hunter Biden is being accused of money laundering and tax evasion right now. So it's very, very interesting that in 2018, a U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware, a blue state, was actually opening an investigation into Hunter Biden over tax evasion and money laundering. That's according to the New York Times. That is very interesting. It does point out that Hunter Biden should have been investigated, but you can't do it towards an election year. And I totally get why Bill Barr could not do that, because if you do that towards an election year, you are essentially making yourself into James Comey, whereas both sides of the political aisle are going to be bashing you. In fact, he has already become James Comey. The freaking political right is already bashing him because he said that there is no substantial evidence of massive voter fraud that would have changed the outcome of the freaking election. There are people on the right already jumping on him just for saying that. So what do you think the left would have done had he opened an investigation on a freaking election year against Hunter Biden, who's not even running for damn president? If you're gonna be opening investigations on a freaking election year, I want it to be open for the actual election. That's what I care about. I mean, Hunter Biden doing dirty things, that was a given. We all know that the Bidens are not on a freaking up and up. They're politicians. They are a political family. They are no different than the goddamn Clintons. They are no different. Welcome to my new subscribers. I appreciate you guys joining in the fun. I want you guys to know that I do these podcasts every day. Every day I do. All right, so I'm going to be reading out some new subscribers, guys. All right, so there you go. We had Justo K. James. We had Jermichi McGill. We had Raki Solman, Amy Alawine, Jason Doofy, Jimmy Lee Rosier III, and Ashley Rose. Welcome to the Devil's Advocate channel, guys, and welcome to the Pitchfork Podcast. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We do this. We actually do this on the show every day. The number to call in is 253-203-6784. Again, the number is going to be 253-203-6784. Call in. Tell me how you feel, guys. Tell me what grinds your gears. Tell me about your day. Tell me about your COVID life right now. How have you been adjusting with this freaking virus? Let me know. Let me know how your life has been. Also, guys, if you want to join my Discord server, I'm gonna put an invite link right into the chat here. Let me grab that for you. My Discord, guys, is gonna be the Inferno. The Inferno is a place. What's going on, Gentleman's Fury? Gentleman's Fury is this Gentleman's Fury is a great Magic the Gathering player. I actually play one of his decks, and I think I'm gonna be playing that your deck a little bit later. Your deck is awesome, bro. It's fast, it's beautiful. But let's continue with this article here. It says, according to again, I'm gonna read over one of the part here, right? Because it's very, very interesting. According to the New York Times, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware opened one investigation against Hunter Biden in late 2018 before his father became a presidential candidate. Now, that's very interesting because in 2018, there wasn't a freaking election year. There wasn't a general election. So what became of that investigation in Delaware? And Delaware is a blue state. So a blue state couldn't get anything done with this guy. That worries me. That worries me because now if you read on to the next sentence, you can see the problem here. It says it includes inquiries into potential violations of money laundering and tax laws. Sources close to the investigation said the money laundering part of the case did not gain traction. See, right now, Hunter Biden is under FBI investigation from a whole bunch of people, mainly because of charges of money laundering and tax laws and basically tax evasion. So he's under investigation for the exact same thing that he was under investigation from the U.S. from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware in 2018. So it's the exact same charges, and it's not double jeopardy or anything else because that was the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware. This is actually the full force of the federal government who's going after him now, and also investigating him. So in the next paragraph, in the very next paragraph, it says, and the Wall Street Journal, it says journal, but the Wall Street Journal, in case you missed the first part of the actual stream, reported that federal prosecutors in Manhattan had also been looking into Hunter Biden's business and financial dealings. Really? So in Manhattan, New York, another blue state. See, this is basically what's I gotta tell you. That is what's given this story some more traction, in my opinion. That is what's giving this story a little bit of meat to it, because you've had two blue states, one in Delaware in 2018 and also one now in Manhattan, New York. So these are blue states. These aren't Texas. This ain't South Carolina. This isn't like freaking Florida or Georgia. These are blue states, and they are given the exact same charge that the federal government right now, who is not political. The federal government, in terms of the FBI, they are charged to not be political. And the stream ends. I'm going to keep this running for about until 4 p.m. Pacific, which is about, I would say, 7 p.m. Eastern time, because I take breaks, 30-minute breaks, and so I'm gonna keep this running. And we're gonna actually discuss about 7 or 8 news stories. So stay tuned. We're gonna go in. Because the one thing about me is that I don't just read you the news. I give you my take, and I also give you more information that you can use. So I'm going to give you a link to this particular Newsmax article, and I'm going to go into the political left now. Because again, I'm not going to just read to you from one side of the political aisle. I'm going to give you more than what the average content creator gives you, because they just usually give you, one side of the aisle. I'm left, so I'm going to give you MSNBC. I'm right, so I'm going to give you Fox News or freaking Newsmax. I'm not going to be like that. I just gave you Newsmax, which is far right. So I'm going to go over to MSNBC, which is far left. Because again, I want to give you a variety of news, So I just want to give you another news story from the MSNBC, there's a lot to look at here. So we're gonna pick a news story, right? And this story here is something that I'm very interested in, right? It says COVID is destroying America's mental and financial health. McConnell has the power to help. The pandemic is teaching us once again that mental illness and rampant income inequality go hand in hand. Now, the first thing that I'm going to point out with MSNBC, the first thing that the right is gonna actually point out, right? Right. So this is the actual article here. It's from MSNBC. It says COVID is destroying Americans' mental and financial health. McConnell has the power to help. First of all, so does Nancy Pelosi. So does Chuck Schumer. I mean, so does Dianne Feinstein. So does all these other freaking Democrats who are in Congress and who are in the freaking Senate. The one thing that I'm getting real sick of, I'm getting real tired of, is this idea that only one side of the political aisle cares about you or doesn't care about you. These people are rich. These people have mansions. These people drive cars that you will never be able to freaking afford. Do you honestly think that depending on what side of the political aisle that they find themselves on, that they actually give a shit about you? That they actually care about you? That they ever cared about you? Do you think that as you've lost your job, as many people have lost their jobs during COVID, that Nancy Pelosi is losing sleep over that? Nancy Pelosi was getting her hair did in California when there was a lockdown, when no one else could have freaking went out there and got their hair done. That shows you that these people think that they're better than you. They don't care about you, and this is why they are playing around with the COVID relief, the financial COVID relief bills, because see. MSNBC, they are playing to their crowd by trying to place one blame on one side of the political aisle. No. They're all to blame for this. Democrats, Republicans, whoever's in there, they're all to blame for this. They're all to blame for us only getting $1,200, as if there aren't people out there whose rent is more than $1,200. They're all to blame for this. I tell my subscribers, and I tell people who follow me all the time, to never fall into the trap of, well, they do it, so we could do it too, and these people are saying different things, so it doesn't matter if they're doing the exact same thing. They are at least saying something different, right? But anyways, let's get into the article here. This is written by Liz Plank. America needs therapy. We have a mental health crisis on our hands with no end in sight. 1 in 3 of us now meets the threshold for clinical anxiety or depression, and cases of depression have increased threefold since the pandemic, with 1 in 5 COVID-19 patients developing a mental illness as a side effect. All the chronic worrying and isolation from the pandemic have literally rewired our brains, and it's not for the better. Say what you want about MSNBC. Say what you will. Say what you will. That is one hell of a freaking paragraph. She's 100% correct. When she said that all the chronic worrying and isolation from the pandemic has literally rewired our brains, that hit the nail on the head right there. I think that the chronic worrying and the financial woes that the American people have faced, I do think that has rewired some brains. I think that people are a lot less empathetic. I've noticed that when it comes to even like customer service, when you call into certain numbers, customer service people are a lot nastier, a lot shorter. I've also noticed that when it comes to shopping, people are not very considerate. You look at the freaking toilet paper shortage, or you look at how many people have been just buying things off the shelves with no kind of consideration that there are other people who might need those products. If you also look at some of the personal interactions, some of the Karen type of behavior, calling the freaking police on people for like no reason, that's been super duper rampant lately. Or the police just wilding out. I think that is a side effect of this pandemic. I think everybody's frustrated and everybody's broke. People have lost their jobs. People have lost their businesses. And I think that when we get to the point that we don't have sympathy for those people, like I remember the first time that I mentioned this on this podcast. I remember the first episode of this particular podcast. Had a guy call in. Also had a guy in the chat. He was saying, don't worry about it. You'll just freaking recover, and stop complaining. And maybe he was trolling, but there are some people out there who genuinely feel that way. Who genuinely feel that right now, if someone's lost their job, that if someone can't afford to make ends meet, there are people out there who basically feel that it is socialism if that person asks for another freaking stimulus. That is not socialism to ask for a stimulus when the government shut down the fucking economy. It is not socialism when you ask for more than $1,200, as if people's rent payments aren't more than $1,200 a month. It is not socialism to ask for food stamps when you can't feed your kids right now because you lost your job because the government, not you, shut down the freaking economy, has money for bombs, has money for tanks, has money for foreign aid, has money to protect other countries, has money to occupy other goddamn countries, but ain't got a dime for the American people. But let's move on with this article here. I'm sorry, I went off a bit of a tangent there, but the one thing that I hated is when people abuse the American people. I deployed for this country, and I love the American people. You are my people. Y'all my people. I'm not no goddamn German. I ain't no damn Russian. I ain't Chinese. I ain't Japanese. I am American. And you are my people. And when these shit-brain politicians give us only $1,200 as if you don't have kids, as if you don't have bills, as if you don't have worries, as if you don't have dreams, the so-called American dream, because as George Carlin says, they call it the American dream because you got to be asleep to fucking believe it. Yes, I get fired up every day. I'm devil's advocate, and I fired up on behalf of the American people because you are my people. At the end of the day, when I put on that army uniform, who's I thinking about? My people. It ain't black people. It ain't white people. It ain't the left or the right or pagans. And I'm a pagan. But again, over pagans, over black people, over Black Lives Matter, over the right, over whoever I voted for, I'm going to pick the American people. That's why I always side against cops over the American people, because I always give deference to the American citizen. Because I trust you more than I trust any agent of the goddamn state. I trust you more than I trust any fucking politician. I trust you more than I trust anybody else. I trust you, the American people. Let's get back to the article here. It says, while we need national and state-funded psychological support to get us out of this mess, the government of one of the richest countries in the world, in the world, no less, is providing the bare minimum when it comes to basic needs such as housing and food. Yet these are the services crucial to preventing the worst mental health crisis in a generation. And it's not just the adults who've lost their jobs. Right? I'm gonna take a little bit of a detour here and talk about that. Right? It's not just the adults who have lost their jobs that you should worry about. It's the children who have been out of school, who have been away from their friends, who have watched mom and dad fight. Domestic violence has been way up. Child abuse has been way up during this period. It is also the children who have been sitting at home with maybe abusive parents, and because those parents have been home too, because many of them have lost their jobs, many of them are staying home because they're scared of the freaking virus. They just got the unemployment and just stayed home. Well, the problem with that is that those people, right? Those people, they have those children there, and those children can't reach out for help if they're being abused, if they're being molested, if they're being beaten up on, if they're not being fed. How would you know now? They're trapped in freaking houses with the very parents who could be abusing them, the very parents, the very guardians, the sisters, brothers, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older adults who might be friends of the family, So it's not just the adults that you got to worry about with this mental health stuff because of this fucking virus. It's also children who are not socialized with other children. It is quite known what the outcomes typically are for those children, and those children have been out of school for a long time. In places like New York, New York City in New York, Bill de Blasio has announced back on December the 7th that children were going back to school. I actually did a whole video about that. And I'm very nervous about that. But I totally get why you have to go back and do that, because if you don't put kids back in school, imagine you've already had, mass shootings. You've already had children, do horrible things because they feel like they were being bullied. Imagine now that you have a kid who's a freaking cutter, who's at home all day, who isn't around friends. They can just be on social media, but social media is so freaking destructive for a freaking young mind. I mean, that's not exactly like an outcome or a freaking alternative. So if you're having that happen, man, it is just, I want you guys to get this, right? I want you guys to get this and understand this. The scariest part about this virus is not the virus itself. It's been the reaction to the virus, right? It's been the reaction. So let's go back to the article here. Yes, let's see. Look at read what Gentleman's Furies put out. If someone could be a figure to express the middle America that sees there is a good policy in both right and left, but can install moderate versions of both, I believe bridge the gap. That's what I'm trying to do, man. I want to bridge the gap. I want to show people that there is no left and right anymore. There's just American citizens versus like politicians, and that's it. There is no left. There is no right. There is no Newsmax. There's no MSNBC. They're all in it for the exact same reason: to get money from you, to bamboozle you, the American people. Because MSNBC and all these news organizations, all these big banks, right? All of them got fucking bailouts. All of them got COVID relief money, right? And there are millions of Americans who still haven't gotten their damn stimulus checks, like myself, for example. There are millions of Americans right now who don't know where their next meal is coming from. There are millions of Americans right now who are suffering mental health crises, and also children who are suffering from mental health concerns as a result of some of the lockdowns, as a result of some of the things that they've been seeing, some of the shocks. Even if you agree with some of the with the freaking protests, some of them did turn violent, and that did change some people. That did bother some people. If you are a young child and you're watching this stuff, you're watching the police abuse people. You're watching people be upset because of the police abusing people, and so they go out and they commit violence. What do you think that's doing to a young child's mind right now when they've been trapped, at home doing distance learning and not going to school, and they are exposed to that stuff 24/7, and so they are young and they are on the internet, and as many children who are on the freaking internet, they are unmonitored and unmentored. So what do you think? What kind of mindset do you think is shaping right now with these young children? As a horrible thing. It's just, I want you guys to really think about that. I want you to ponder about that. What do you think this whole lockdown has been doing to kids who need to be socialized with other children in order to grow up to become productive members of our society? But let's get back to this article here. It says there's been a lot of pontificating about both the mental health epidemic and the financial crisis that's upon us. But these two conversations are fundamentally intertwined. While the former hasn't spared anyone, it has by no means affected everyone equally, as everyone who are the most marginalized have seen their mental health decline precipitously. That is again, this person here who's writing this article for MSNBC, again, this is why you should definitely always listen to people who are different than you. You should always listen to people who may have a different perspective, because I'm actually on the right. I'm on the right, but I'm reading MSNBC and I'm taking in what this woman said, because what she just said was the absolute truth. People have been trying to separate the whole mental health and financial crisis that's going on right now, when they're both one and the same. For many people, You've had millionaires, people who were once millionaires, killing themselves because they've lost everything. I wrote an article about a man who paid $1 million to start this business in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It was called 8th Street. It's called 8th Street Tiki Bar and Grill. This man paid over $1 million, his life savings, his life work to start that, and he lost everything. And the man said that I could hear I'm not saying that he was suicidal, but I could hear the depression in his freaking voice. He sounded like a defeated man. You literally saw $1 million in your bank account and you lost everything. Do you understand what that would do to you? When you went to work every day, you made those meals, you bust your ass. The man opened up early as hell because, again, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is a tourist area. So that's why he opened up that little side stall, and it cost him over $1 million because, believe it or not, South Carolina is a red state. That's one of the highest tax states out there. You're talking about a 7% tax rate. 7% tax rate for people who make over $1 million. So he had to pay over 7% for a fucking tax rate just to open that business. And so and as soon as he opened that business, and COVID came, he lost everything. And that business was doing well before COVID. It was doing great because he had tourists that he could actually rely off of. He lost everything. I heard this man crying on the phone. Again, to hear a grown man cry on the phone, listen, that is a different kind of experience, man. I'm not saying that men can't cry, but to hear a grown man cry because he lost everything, that's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking, and it wasn't even his fault. This man was actually a foreigner. He came to this country. He tried to pursue the American dream. He became an American citizen. You could even tell that he's from like a different country because of his freaking accent. You could tell that this was not his first country. And he opened that stand. He spent over $1 million and lost everything. Do you understand what that does to someone's mental health? If that guy's listening or if he ever sees this video, please don't hurt yourself. I heard you, and let me go ahead and tell you, as a combat veteran, I've talked to a lot of people who are suicidal, and man, that man sounded like he was suicidal, and that would do it. If you paid over $1 million into a business and then you lost everything through no fault of your own, that will do it. So let's go back here. It says, while psychological trouble can be the result of genetics and childhood development, it's also distinctly situational. It can be sparked and exacerbated by our relationship with the world and how differently it treats us. And we are seeing this play out clearly in this pandemic. Oh my gosh. It is just, I agree wholeheartedly with what this person just put out. I mean, that they put out a mouthful there. I want you guys to know they put out a mouthful. That was quite incredible because, that's somebody on the left who appears to get it. That is not about, the diversity stuff. It's about the American citizen right now who's suffering and no one's talking about it. Everyone's talking about this stupid election. It doesn't matter who wins the election if you're not going to fix the problems in terms of people losing their jobs and people hemorrhaging jobs. Did you know that as of last week, we have hit unemployment claims that we haven't seen since September? Did you know that? Did you know that unemployment claims have actually gone up with numbers that we haven't seen since September? I'm talking about months ago. We're in December right now. We're going into the holiday season and people are claiming unemployment at record numbers that we haven't seen since September. We have people right now going on unemployment again, or for the first time during the holiday season when you want people to spend money. Do you understand what this looks like? How bad this could actually get? Do you understand that this is the holiday season? We need people to spend money. A big part of our economy is spending. A big part of our economy is getting people to go out there and buy things that sometimes they don't necessarily need. A big part of our economy is getting people to go out there and buy Christmas gifts, buy decorations, to go out there and buy things and to basically massively spend. But that hasn't been happening. Guys, that hasn't been happening. And the problem with that is that you guys, you really have to realize this. If we don't get people spending soon, if we don't get people putting out the money quickly, and I mean in a hurry, guys, we are looking at a great freaking depression. Our economy is based largely off of spending and consumer confidence. And consumer confidence cannot be high if you're getting unemployment claims and unemployment insurance claims at numbers that we haven't seen for months during the holiday season. This is December the 11th. December the 11th, right? We are 14 days, 2 weeks out from Christmas. And we have unemployment claims that are littering the country. Ryan Lawrence, thank you for joining the Devil's Advocate channel. I do this show 1 p.m. Pacific time every day, 4 p.m. Eastern time. I keep the show running sometimes 3 to 4 hours, sometimes only 1 hour. But for today, I'm going to keep the show running extra long because I love you guys. I want to entertain you. I want to give you the news. I want to give you an actual perspective, not one that you got to pay for. Not one. I'm not going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear because, again, if I just tell you what you want to hear, then I'm not going to affect the change that I want to see. I want to see change in this country. I want people to question their government. I want people to question the coronavirus response from not only Donald Trump, but also the incoming administration. I want people to hold Joe Biden's feet to the goddamn fire. Don't just give him a pass because you hated Trump. Don't just give Joe Biden a pass because, he's going to, do something with cannabis legalization. Let me go ahead and tell you something real quick. This is my hat. This 22 veterans is one too many. But again, I want you to understand something, right? Don't ever take my videos whereas I attack Joe Biden or I defend Joe Biden and I attack or I attack Donald Trump or defend Trump. Don't take that as me endorsing any particular political side of the aisle. Take it as me just being honest. Take it as me just calling it as I see it. Take it as me just not feeding you bullshit. I'm not Tim Pool. I'm not Progressive Voice. I'm not Sticks Hexahammer. All right, I don't kowtow to a political side of the aisle because, again, that would be just me giving you propaganda. Anyways, guys, we're going to take a 30-minute break. We're going to come back right here to the Pitchfork Podcast. Don't go anywhere. Again, guys, 30-minute break. I'll be back in 30 minutes. I'm going to play a video on the screen for you guys so that you can be entertained while I'm gone.
All these creepy ads coming from lying about Luke Rank.
I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard.
On this episode of Bad Cop No Donuts.
Viva la raza! I lie, I cheat, I steal. I lie, I cheat, I steal. Yo.
Michael, on Friday, we told you about a lawsuit filed against Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright by a man who claims deputies seized a large amount of money from his car, even though they never charged him with a criminal offense.
I don't owe you an apology for doing my job.
Over the last 5 years, police agencies in the state have collected $22.7 million in assets through civil forfeiture, often without charging or convicting someone of a crime.
I don't owe you an apology for doing my job.
In early April, Sheriff Chuck Wright compared the NAACP to the KKK.
Let's make it deep.
This video will target the entire Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department, but we can't get into the actual Sheriff's Department without first discussing the sheriff. Now, Sheriff Wright has been the sheriff since 2004, but he has been a law enforcement officer in Spartanburg County since 1986, and that's kind of funny because that is the exact same year that I was born. And it just seems like since I was born and since I was a kid all the way up until now, I've always heard that if you were to just drive through Spartanburg and you happen to have a good sum of money on you, and if there were a, let's say, routine traffic stop like a tail light is out, or a deputy claims that, well, you were going 5 miles over the speed limit, and they ask you for ID, and then you open your wallet and they say, Eureka, look at all that cash. Are you a drug dealer, sir? Did you steal that money? Is this money being used in the commission of a crime? And of course, you would respond with, of course not. It's just money from my paycheck. Well, that sheriff's deputy, as many deputies have been doing in Spartanburg, would just take your money, and even if you aren't charged with a crime, which would of course mean you certainly could not have been convicted of a crime, they won't return your money. And if you're doubting that this would happen, not only do we have news article after news article about this, but Sheriff Wright is currently facing a lawsuit from a black man in South Carolina. And by the way, black people in Spartanburg are disproportionately targeted for silver forfeiture, and this lawsuit is still ongoing right now. Have a look for yourself.
Agencies across South Carolina are collecting millions of dollars off something called civil forfeitures. That's when officers seize money or property, often without charging someone with a crime. As WYFF News Force Tim Waller found out, law enforcement agencies are raking in millions each year. Tim?
Michael, on Friday, we told you about a lawsuit filed against Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright by a man who claims deputies seized a large amount of money from his car, even though they never charged him with a criminal offense.
More than 1,000 vehicles were stopped during the sting, and nearly 200 people were searched. Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright says even critics of the operation are safer because of it.
I'm still protecting your family as well, even though you might not agree with what I'm doing.
Now, if you want a good representation of just how terrible these silver forfeitures truly are, then allow me to use some math. Now, as of current population estimates, South Carolina only has 5,149,000 people. In the third most populated country on planet Earth, then that would mean that your population size of law enforcement officers should be even lower, because generally speaking, the population size of police officers is almost always lower by multitudes than that of citizens. In just 3 years' time, Sheriff Wright and the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department has collected over $3.5 million from citizens, when in most cases, those people weren't even charged with a crime. And now, based on simple math, $3.5 million is roughly 67 or 68% of 5,149,000. That means that if we're looking at dollar amount per person in South Carolina based on population size, this man and his sheriff's department has collected 67 or 68% of the dollar amount per person in the entire state of South Carolina in just one county. Let that sink in for a moment. Take as much time as you need. The name Sheriff Chuck Wright has been in the mainstream media for very good reason. And trust me, when you get a load of all the things that this guy has said and the lawsuits he has faced and is currently facing, you'll begin to see why there might be a little bit of an issue here.
Time is up. Now it's time for new blood, somebody else with a new way of thinking.
A unified message from leaders of NAACP branches in Spartanburg County.
I understand he has tried to paint the blanket of being a person that doesn't want to deal with color, but even in the age of Obama, color still is relevant.
In early April, Sheriff Chuck Wright compared the NAACP to the KKK.
We encourage the preachers, the African-American preachers, to get involved with him. And now for him to say what he said about the NAACP, putting our name in the same sentence of the KKK, that was heartbreaking to me. I understand that's only one man that spoke, but it represents our police department.
Not only does he appear to have an issue with immigrants, but this man actually suggested that the NAACP, an organization that has fought for black people for decades now, is comparable to the KKK. Now mind you, the KKK used to kill black people and are an actual terrorist group. Somehow, some way, the NAACP is comparable to a bunch of people who wear white sheets, burn crosses, harm innocent people, and does their very best to support white supremacy. Now just imagine for a second that you are a transgender person, and let's just say that you accidentally were to walk into the female's restroom. Well, Sheriff Wright said that he would physically assault you just because you're trans and you walked into the female's restroom. Gee, I wonder where I could have possibly heard this type of rhetoric before. I mean, I know I've been to various parts of the world, and I spent a good bit of time in the Middle East, but not quite sure where I've heard this type of talk before, of just attacking trans people for absolutely no reason other than them being trans people and them coming across your path. Man, where have I heard this before? Just can't quite put a finger on it. Not that you've done anything or assaulted anyone or raped anyone or touched anyone. It's not even clear if you even said anything to him to even warrant a physical assault. I mean, imagine for a second. This guy wants to convince a trans person that I'm going to protect you, that I'm going to be your sheriff, and yet there is actually a condition in which all you have to do is walk into a place and this guy would instantly start beating you up. Not because you've done anything, but just because you're present. And oh boy, it gets so much worse than this.
Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright is standing by a Facebook post he made on his personal page. The lengthy post gives a strong opinion. Part of it reads, quote, "Immigrants, not Americans, must adapt. Take it or leave it. I'm tired of this nation worrying about whether we are offending some individual or culture."
I think the most racist people in America right now sometimes are your minorities.
By now, I'm sure that you've noticed a pattern. And the pattern is that he likes to be the center of attention. And that's why he says these ridiculous things, because he knows it will get him attention. The man wants to be Donald Trump so bad, except the problem is he's more like Mitt Romney. If you're gonna just steal money like this. And at least with Mitt Romney, there's the Mormonism, so at least that's kind of interesting. Sheriff Wright, you are a racist, anti-trans, super duper conservative, religious zealot in a red state. Even amongst anti-trans, anti-immigrant, anti-black people, you still can't stand out. So no matter how many ridiculous things he says, because he lacks any vocal talent or political talent, he will never beat Donald Trump, no matter how much he tries. And so he'll keep saying these ridiculous things over and over and over again because he knows how shocking they are. But the real question becomes, who exactly is his audience? And that question is what many people who came to me about him, who live in Spartanburg, is the question that all of them have been ashamed of. Unfortunately for the people of Spartanburg, there are those who keep voting for this man, knowing that he is a bigot. Because one has to wonder, who is he representing when, if the sheriff's position is an elected position, then who in the world is electing an anti-immigrant, anti-trans, completely insensitive to black people, glorified road pirate and a sheriff? This man is not even fit to be a dog catcher, much less a sheriff. And there's just some things that he says that are just unironically funny. Like, for example, years and years and years ago, Sheriff Wright said that women should be armed and have guns on them, and I am a proud Second Amendment supporter, so I'm with you, Chuck.
Are you suggesting that women should be shooting to kill, for lack of a better word, down there? You also suggest which type of gun that women should get. 45 caliber handgun. Why is that?
It's called the Judge. It shoots a 45 caliber or a 410 shotgun shell.
But I assure you that I'm with you for a completely different reason than what you probably intended. See, you want women to be armed for a political reason, to protect themselves, and I want them to be armed to protect themselves from your deputies, because all it takes is a simple Google search, and you will find ream after ream after ream of your deputies engaging in, well, let's just say, some less than savory activities. I mean, at this point, Sheriff, we might have to actually start arming the kids too. The Department of Homeland Security had to actually get involved because one of your deputies, a sergeant who worked for you for 18 years, almost 2 decades, and who was in a leadership position, was caught with some less than savory material.
Former upstate deputy accused of child pornography is expected to go before a judge this morning. Sergeant Chris Wilbanks worked for the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office for 18 years.
Homeland Security arrested him on Friday, the same day he lost his job.
I mean, we might have to actually start giving the kids live ammunition for their Nerf guns to keep them safe from your deputies. I mean, hell, let's keep it a buck here. In Spartanburg, even the coroner can't be trusted. Which is kind of weird because normally, if the coroner is gonna be a pervert, they'll be a necrophiliac or something like that. They wouldn't mess with the living usually, right? So in Spartanburg, they can't even pervert correctly. He must have thought that she was a living dead girl. You know, like The Walking Dead, a zombie? Well, the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department puts a whole new meaning to the phrase, hide your kids, hide your wife. But what do I know? I'm just the devil in the details.
I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard.
On this episode of Bad Cop No Donuts,
Viva la raza! I lie, I cheat, I steal. I lie, I cheat, I steal. Yo.
Michael, on Friday, we told you about a lawsuit filed against Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright by a man who claims deputies seized a large amount of money from his car, even though they never charged him with a criminal offense.
I don't owe you an apology for doing my job.
Over the last 5 years, police agencies in the state have collected $22.7 million in assets through civil forfeiture, often without charging or convicting someone of a crime.
I don't owe you an apology for doing my job.
In early April, Sheriff Chuck Wright compared the NAACP to the KKK.
Let's make it deep.
This video will target the entire Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department, but we can't get into the actual Sheriff's Department without first discussing the sheriff. Now, Sheriff Wright has been the sheriff since 2004, but he has been a law enforcement officer in Spartanburg County since 1986, and that's kind of funny because that is the exact same year that I was born. And it just seems like since I was born and since I was a kid all the way up until now, I've always heard that if you were to just drive through Spartanburg and you happen to have a good sum of money on you, and if there were a, let's say, routine traffic stop, like a tail light is out, or a deputy claims that, well, you were going 5 miles over the speed limit, and they ask you for ID, and then you open your wallet and they say, Eureka, look at all that cash. Are you a drug dealer, sir? Did you steal that money? Is this money being used in the commission of a crime? And of course, you would respond with, of course not. It's just money from my paycheck. Well, that sheriff's deputy, as many deputies have been doing in Spartanburg, would just take your money, and even if you aren't charged with a crime, which would of course mean you certainly could not have been convicted of a crime, they won't return your money. And if you're doubting that this would happen, not only do we have news article after news article about this, but Sheriff Wright is currently facing a lawsuit from a black man in South Carolina. And by the way, black people in Spartanburg are disproportionately targeted for civil forfeiture, and this lawsuit is still ongoing right now. Have a look for yourself.
Agencies across South Carolina are collecting millions of dollars off something called civil forfeitures. That's when officers seize money or property, often without charging someone with a crime. As WYFF News Force Tim Waller found out, law enforcement agencies are raking in millions each year. Tim?
Michael, on Friday, we told you about a lawsuit filed against Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright by a man who claims deputies seized a large amount of money from his car, even though they never charged him with a criminal offense.
More than 1,000 vehicles were stopped during the sting and nearly 200 people were searched. Spartanburg County Sheriff Chuck Wright says even critics of the operation are safer because of it.
I'm still protecting your family as well, even though you might not agree with what I'm doing.
Now, if you want a good representation of just how terrible these civil forfeitures truly are, then allow me to use some math. Now, as of current population estimates, South Carolina only has 5,149,000 people. In the third most populated country on planet Earth, then that would mean that your population size of law enforcement officers should be even lower, because generally speaking, the population size of police officers is almost always lower by multitudes than that of citizens. In just 3 years' time, Sheriff Wright and the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Department has collected over $3.5 million from citizens, when in most cases, those people weren't even charged with a crime. And now, based on simple math, 3.5 million is roughly 67 or 68% of 5,149,000. That means that if we're looking at dollar amount per person in South Carolina based on population size, this man and his sheriff's department has collected 67 or 68% of the dollar amount per person in the entire state of South Carolina in just one county. Let that sink in for a moment. Take as much time as you need. The name Sheriff Chuck Wright has been in the mainstream media for very good reason. And trust me, when you get a load of all the things that this guy has said and the lawsuits he has faced and is currently facing, you'll begin to see why there might be a little bit of an issue here.
Time is up. Now it's time for new blood, somebody else with a new way of thinking.
A unified message from leaders of NAACP branches in Spartanburg County.
I understand he has tried to paint the blanket of being a person that doesn't want to deal with color, but even in the age of Obama, color still is relevant.
In early April, Sheriff Chuck Wright compared the NAACP to the
We are back live with the Pitchfork Podcast, guys. This is Dion McNeil, aka Devil's Advocate, aka the man with the pitchfork. Guys, I'm going to be doing a live stream edit. I'm going to be ranting a little bit. So, guys, I'll give you a little bit something for you to enjoy. All right? So, this is going to be a little live stream edit for TikTok and also for my YouTube channel. I'm going to be clipping this one clip so that I can put it out there and I can go ahead and rant and tell people how I feel. Now, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Now, we just covered two news stories, one from Newsmax and one from MSNBC. But the one from MSNBC is the one I'm going to be focusing on. So, get ready. 1, 2, 3, and go. Look here, Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell. The one thing that I've seen that has shown that is pretty consistent is that these two people don't care about you, and they are representatives of their respective political parties, the Republicans and Democrats. Now, with that being said, the same way that Mitch McConnell, I don't even call him Mitch, I call him Bitch McConnell. I call him Master Face McConnell because the little drools on the side of his face kind of like hangs down. It's almost like a fucking a jowl-faced dog, like a freaking mastiff or a goddamn pit bull McConnell. That's what I'm gonna call him from now on. And fucking Nancy Pelosi taking your tax dollars to get yet another fucking surgery. Holy shit, bitch. I mean, shit. Give it up. You are the LeBron James of goddamn politics. I mean, at this point, I'm seriously. Do you think one more surgery is gonna fix you? You are the walking fucking crypt keeper. I mean, seriously, you look like a fucking Magic the Gathering character, a Magic the Gathering character if basically they were black. So I just want you to get this. Neither side cares about you. They gave you $1,200 funky ass dollars as if people's rent payments aren't higher than that. I mean, goddamn, at least give the crackhead enough money to get their goddamn fix to help them cope with some shit. I mean, goddamn. I mean, y'all getting y'all coke. with taxpayer money. Shit. So I mean, I'm just saying. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. Stop being a political cheerleader. You want to know why? Because political cheerleaders make it harder for the rest of us because we can't vote out the bad people because the bad people can just support one little position and you will vote for them because guess what? I don't want my gays to get gay married. I don't want motherfucking abortions. The tax rate is way too high. The rent's way too high. Well, guess what? The rent's way too high and the government only gave it $1,200 to fucking pay for it. So shut the fuck up and stop being a political cheerleader. Do you like that, guys? See, I'm better live, man. Cause see, I don't need a freaking script. That was not a script. You will notice I had no script there, because I get fired up, and the reason being is because the one thing that will get me fired up, going off into a rant like that, where I'm like a damn near rapper, I just go off and I go off the top of my head. The one thing that gets me fired up like that is when the American people are being abused. That's why I run my Bad Cop No Donut series, because I don't like agents of the state abusing the American people. Now you starting to hear. Now that you've heard me go off like that, I can only go off like that if I actually feel what I'm feeling, because I serve this country. I put on the fucking uniform. I'm a citizen of this country. I love my country. And when I see these political vultures, these fucking political parasites, these fucking political mosquitoes, these goddamn political cancerous lobes in our politics, abusing the American people and getting rich, getting fucking mansions, getting goddamn fancy cars, getting their hair did. I mean, Nancy Pelosi is getting her hair did, right? When no one else could because of the fucking lockdown, as if we are fucking serfs, as if she's a queen, as if she's better than you. She's better than you. That's how she feels. Because only a person who believes that they're better than you would never have a fucking job, be in politics their whole goddamn life. And by the way, if you're in politics, you don't have a goddamn job. You don't have a goddamn job. You don't actually make fucking money. Even if you get a goddamn trade deal, guess what? A trade deal is only gonna work because citizens provide the goddamn goods in which for you to goddamn trade. So it's still us. It's not you, it's us. The American people, the citizens of the goddamn world who keep this shit going. This is our shit. It's our shit. You know, so you're not giving us $1,200, you're giving us our fucking money back. So sit there and deliberate and debate on my money? Excuse me, I want you to understand something, right? All right, I want you to understand what political rape is, right? Imagine for a second, you're sitting at home, and a politician says, I'm going to make a bill whereas a man can basically come into your house and dig in your booty whenever the fuck he wants to. That's the fucking IRS. That's essentially what they are. You work, you bust your ass every fucking day. You get up at the goddamn crack of dawn, you know, get your clothes on. Then you got to go drive on the shitty ass roads with the goddamn potholes that your local politicians probably have not fixed yet. Ain't done shit about yet. Then you got to show up to work, bust your ass, get cursed out all day, get shit on, do the shittiest work, go home tired, sweating, stinking as hell, take a shower. And that's only if your local water is not fucked up. You know? Believe it or not, there are some people in this country who still take water, who actually take their baths with jugs of water because they don't trust their fucking local water. Because whenever you try to get like actual well water, you have local ordinances that try to like stop you from going and doing that. Right? So then the economy gets shut down through no fault of your own. You didn't do this shit. You weren't China. You weren't America. You weren't Europe. No one gave an adequate response to this shit. Let's just be honest. Let's just keep it a goddamn buck, especially us. But no one really did. No one really did. Let's keep it a fucking buck, right? No one did, especially not China. Okay? So with that being said, you're getting people, right, who are putting forth this notion that you're being given $1,200. You're not being given shit, because if these politicians can make all this money and like Nancy Pelosi can go and get her hair done when there's a fucking lockdown where everyone else was told to not go and get their hair done. If Mitch McConnell can have goddamn mansions, if Lindsey Graham can drive in these fancy ass cars, if fucking Dianne Feinstein can sit in freaking U.S. politics for as long as she has, if Strom Thurmond was the fucking crypt keeper when he died and made untold amount of money, these motherfuckers are ending up rich when we know what their salaries are. How are you ending up with damn millions? How is that possible? I wanna understand how someone, right, like Nancy Pelosi is possible. You're in politics. You're supposed to be devoting all of your attention to this country, especially since, technically speaking, we are still a country at war. We are a country facing a goddamn pandemic. We are a country with people losing their jobs left and right. How are you rich? Where did your money come from? You know, I want you to get that again. I'm going to repeat one more thing again. These people don't have jobs. They don't have fucking jobs. All they have is your money. And yet there are people out there suggesting that just because I want the American people to receive more stimulus payments, that's somehow socialism. But it's not socialism when they take your money and they get paid off of it. It's not socialism when they take your money and they get health care off it. It's not socialism when they take your money, do fucking backroom deals that fucks over the goddamn country, make sure that veterans aren't taken care of, make sure that you don't have health care, quality health care, make sure that you don't have a stimulus, and actual stimulus payment, make sure that you don't have to work two and three goddamn jobs to just make it, right? It's not socialism when they get what they get, but it's socialism when I want to take care of the fucking American people. That's socialism. Well, if that's socialism, call me a socialist. If that's socialism, in your opinion. I don't want to see the American people starving on the goddamn streets, all right? I was not born in Venezuela. I was born right here. I was not born in China. I was born right here. I don't give a shit about what's going on in China, Venezuela, Japan, the Koreas, Australia, Germany, because they are not my country. I don't have to go overseas to find a hungry person. I can walk right down the goddamn street. I don't have to go overseas to find a person who needs a place to stay. I know homeless veterans right here. I ain't got to go overseas to find a person who needs a fucking stimulus payment, because you still have millions of Americans, almost 10 million, who have still not received their stimulus. And a good chunk of them are people who are poor, people who are veterans, people who, through no fault of their own, just haven't gotten one yet. But it's socialism when they get a check. It's not socialism when we take taxpayer funds from the American people and give it to other countries. It's not socialism then. It's not socialism. It's not socialism when other countries don't want to pay their own fair share into NATO, right? Right. It's not socialism when we pay billions of dollars to protect countries that don't want to pay their own fair share for their own fucking defense. That's not socialism, right? But it's only socialism when the American people needs help. By the way, Adam Bernstein, welcome to the channel. You subscribed, and I'm going to be entertaining you every day. I do the show 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. also at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every day. The number to call in is 253-203-6784. My Discord chat is also in the link. I left a link, an invite link into my Discord server. I'll drop another invite link so that you guys can join up and you guys can chat there too. If you don't want to necessarily jump into you know, like a phone call, I could actually give you a Discord link, and you can jump into my Discord. That way, you can jump into the voice chat, and you can talk that way. You know, so therefore, you know, because again, I want to try to be considerate to people who have lost their jobs, who may not have a cell phone during this period. I want you to be able to participate in this show like everybody else. You know, I don't want you just to, you know, mainly because you're poor, that you can't talk to me. You know, you can go by a library and you can talk to me now. You know, I want you to be able to reach out to me, because I feel that the whole point of this show is to give you not only a more centrist type of outlook on things, right? But it's to also give you an outlet in which to vent your feelings, because I'm an actual journalist. I actually have a freaking press badge. And if your story is intriguing enough to me, I'll cover it. You know, if you feel like your story, if you feel like you're being persecuted, or if you feel like you have a human interest story that you would like for other people to hear, I might cover it, because those are the kind of stories that I'm interested in. You know, in the media, we have this thing called "if it bleeds, it leads," right? Whereas the only way that you can get certain journalists, certain reporters, certain organizations and investigators to even care about you is if people are literally dying. That's what "if it bleeds, it leads" means. But whereas I take a different approach, whereas I cover stories so that it never bleeds. You know, if our journalists in America had told the truth about Saddam Hussein and weapons of mass destruction, we could have saved a lot of lives. And perhaps ISIS doesn't exist. It doesn't matter if you like Trump or not. You got to admit he was right about that. Maybe if our journalists were more honest about the Patriot Act, about how invasive it was going to be, about how people were basically going to be abused, maybe Edward Snowden wouldn't have been essentially exiled from his home country, and maybe we wouldn't, the freaking CIA wouldn't basically know what your turds look like, what your poop looks like. Maybe if our American journalists were a little bit more honest, maybe the Catholic Church would actually face some kind of punishment for all their priests who keep abusing children. Maybe the Boy Scouts could have faced some punishment for all the little boys who have come forward. Maybe some of these teachers and some of these principals who are molesting children in school, maybe they could have faced justice. Maybe Epstein doesn't molest as many children. Maybe he doesn't have an island. If people were a little bit more honest, and I've been hearing stories from ABC News and everything else from actual reporters that they were told to not even cover it, because apparently some people in the media wanted to bleed first. They want a little child, or they want you, the American people. They want the economy. They want their country to bleed first before they give a damn. And that's what makes me different. That's what separates me from other channels, is that I'm not going to just let you bleed. I'm going to try to warn you. That's why I make so many predictions. I try to warn you. Because I want you to understand that in order to do what I do at the level that I do it at, I got to be able to see I got to be able to see things sometimes before the general public sees it. Because when you cover so many stories, I've written more than 200 articles now. So once you've written like that amount, and once you've been featured on like Newsbreak, you've been featured on several websites, you've been featured all over the place because you're that good at it. I'm not to toot my own horn, but I'm just being honest. Once you do that for like a certain amount of time, it gives you a perception. It gives you a way to see past things that other people just can't see, because you've covered things. You've talked to so many politicians. You've talked to so many lawyers. You've talked to so many judges, so many cops. So I want you to understand that the reason why I say what I say is not for views, it's not for notoriety, is mainly so I can warn people about things to come. Because other journalists are gonna wait until it bleeds. And I don't want you to bleed. I faced a lot of things that I talk about. And so that's why I don't want that for you. I don't want to lie to you and tell you what you want to hear. Because I would have over 1 million subs if I put out this kind of quality video going off on the rants that I go off, but I slant it towards the right, or I slant towards the freaking left. You don't think I would have a lot more subs than what I have like right now? Because people love it when someone on a freaking TV screen or a computer screen strokes and massages their ego. People love that. But that's what makes me different. That's what makes me different. That I never did that. I only go with what I feel at the moment. And at the moment, I feel that neither party, nobody in Washington, nobody in D.C. gives a shit about you or me. I feel that they are out for their own pockets, and therefore we should treat them as such. And if you're not treating them as such, then you're playing team politics, in which that tells me that you're on a team. That doesn't matter what the other side does. Like in basketball, when there's a foul, right? And even if the teammate knows the person, fouled the other person, you'll notice that the teammate will still speak up for the other person, because in team sports, that's what you're supposed to do. I don't want you to do that for my country or the American people. I want people to know the truth. The truth is that there are no political parties left in the U.S. There are no political parties left in general. There's only the people versus the kingships. Because let's be honest, that's how they treat you. Nancy Pelosi goes and gets her damn hair done when nobody else could, right? She had the nerve and the fucking audacity to go and do that. And she was out there in public. She wouldn't hide. She wouldn't be like a goddamn ninja. She wasn't like a fucking Tengu. She wasn't fucking Naruto. She wasn't out there using freaking shadow clone goddamn jutsu. She was out there, out there in the fucking public because, again, she didn't think that there was going to be any kind of actual backlash because, again, she sees you as serfs. You are the serfs. I mean, how else? What kind of mentality otherwise, right, will allow somebody to sit in politics for decades, years and years and years and years and years? They're go out and they're getting their freaking hair done with expensive haircuts, expensive dresses, $1,000 dresses, expensive cars, mansions, but then has a nerve to tell you that you got to wait for a stimulus bill. Do you understand what kind of mindset that? And there are people on the left who defend this woman. Just like there's people on the right who defend Mitch McConnell, knowing that these people, that neither one of these people give a shit about you. They've been in politics forever, right? Right? At what point have they ever struck you as people that just care about the American people? Basically, all big political parties are bad. Yeah, basically, they're bad because and what makes them bad is that these people, not only do they not care about you, but then they turn around and they charge you money. Like that's the part that I think a lot of people have forgotten or don't understand or haven't really comprehended, is that they charge you money. They make money, right, while denying you the money that you've already paid them. I mean, you gotta admit, that is some pimp shit, yo. That is some pimp shit. You gotta admit. Good Lord, that is some pimp shit. Anyways, we're gonna cover some more stories. So let's go to some more news stories here. So, all right. So we're gonna go over to Fox News. So we covered MSNBC. We covered also Newsmax. Now we're gonna cover Fox News. We're gonna cover several different stories. Don't mess with Texas. Okay. All right. So this is some election news. This is gonna be Fox News. They're trying to get their viewers back because the viewers been leaving because they think that they're a part of the freaking deep state now. Because apparently if you ever say anything that is symbolizing that maybe the election was that Joe Biden just won the election, and apparently you were fake news and you were part of deep state. But anyways, this is from Fox News. Texas files reply brief in election suit at SCOTUS. Final step before justices issue order to in blockbuster case. Blockbuster case. Blockbuster case, guys. Guys, remember. This is gonna be a blockbuster case, guys. Okay, this is gonna be funny because I'm telling you, these people, I would say, they are not just. I hate these freaking ads, man. Good Lord. Good Lord. Wow. All right, so this has been written by Tyler Olson and Bill Mears of Fox News. Texas files reply brief in election suit at SCOTUS. Final step before justices issue order in blockbuster case. Legal experts say Texas case flawed in several ways, likely to fail. Court could conceivably resolve case before Monday electoral college vote. By the way, the electoral college vote's on Monday. So it's published 6 hours ago. Texas on Friday morning filed a quote-unquote reply brief. A quote-unquote reply brief with the Supreme Court as it asks the tribunal to hear its lawsuit that aims to essentially nullify the presidential elections in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, and Wisconsin, putting the ball in the justice's court to issue an order in the case. How are you, as one state, right, gonna try to establish a vote in a whole different state? That is not your state. All right, so that's the first thing. That's like, okay, so I want you to imagine for a second, right? You get some pussy in, or you get laid in like one part of the country, right? And then like a dude on the ear down on the other side of the country say, hey, I don't like that. Listen, I don't think that what you do in Texas is gonna affect what happens in Michigan. I don't think Governor Whitmer is gonna let that happen. Georgia, maybe, but Wisconsin, most definitely not. In Georgia, probably not, because again, they've already been pretty clear about this. They're going to certify their elections, and they've already have. So, let's go back to Fox News. The quote unquote briefing stage. The briefing stage. Oh my gosh, just precious. The quote-unquote briefing stage of Supreme Court litigation consists of the first party, in this instance Texas, asking the court to hear the case. Then opposition briefs are filed by those on the other side of the other side of the case. Then the first party is allowed to file a quote-unquote reply brief, which Texas did Friday morning. Quote, defendant states do not seriously address grave issues that Texas raises, choosing to hide behind other court venues in decisions in which Texas could not participate, and to mischaracterize both the relief that Texas seeks and the justification for that relief, end quote. The Texas brief says of the opposition briefs filed by Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia Thursday. Texas continues, an injunction should issue because defendant states have not and cannot defend their actions. Okay, that's a mouthful, right? That's a mouthful. So you think that states that just simply took an election, that's simply telling you to fuck off, basically. That's essentially when they sit that reply brief, and I've already read it. They essentially told you to fuck off, right? Because I want you to understand, the United States is essentially a confederation of different states, right? Different states that are allowed to have, for the most part, their own rules. So it doesn't really matter how many lawsuits you file. If Texas says, if Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and any other state tells you to fuck off, then that's what it is, guys. I don't know what else to freaking tell you. If they tell you to fuck off, that means fuck off. I'm not sure how Texas thinks that going to SCOTUS is going to force these other states to do anything. I mean, that was a long shot to even like begin with, but I mean, there is no. I'm just not sure what the end goal is here. Anyways, it says here the justices could now could simply issue an order saying that they refuse to hear the case, which is the Supreme Court could very well do that. Supreme Court has every right to do that. They could just say screw off. They could choose to not hear the case. And they've done most cases presented before the Supreme Court are rejected. The vast majority of them are. They hear a very small amount of cases. I want you to know that. The crux of the Texas case, excuse me, I skipped one part. They could also agree to hear the case and promptly dismiss it or rule in favor of Texas. The justices could also request oral arguments before ruling. The crux of the Texas case is the argument that the four states it is suing, all four of which swung for President-elect Joe Biden, unconstitutionally changed their election statutes in their judiciaries or executive branches when only the legislator is allowed to make election law. The reply brief Friday says that the four states failed to adequately dispute their point that this makes their entire elections invalid. Quote, defendant states do not credibly dispute either that they changed election statutes via non-legislative means or that the electors clause preempts such changes, end quote, the Texas brief says. Accordingly, Texas is likely to prevail on the merits. That's what they're claiming. That's what they're claiming. They're not going to actually prevail, but they're claiming that. So I'm going to drop a link to that article in the chat, man, so you guys can see that. It's from Fox News. And basically, Texas wants to sue 4 different states because they are claiming that these states changed their election laws in the way that they do elections from those states' judicial and executive branches, but not the legislative types of branches. Well, first off, that's not true. The way that these 4 states have been running their elections and how they've always been running their elections, it's just that they've had to actually modify it a bit because of COVID. COVID has changed everything. There are some things that you just can't do. Certain practices that you cannot employ, especially when the general election was going to take place in November, a colder month. So you have to take more precautions with COVID, because I think more and more people, especially on the right, are learning that this virus is a little bit more serious than what you think. This virus is killing people left and right. This virus is no joke, man. So, I left a link to that particular article down below. But again, just to read to you one part again. The crux of the Texas case is the argument that the 4 states it is suing, all 4 of which swung for President-elect Joe Biden, unconstitutionally changed their election statutes in their judiciaries or executive branches, that's either the courts or the governor's offices or the lieutenant governor or people in the executive branches of those states, when only the legislature is allowed to make election law. The reply brief Friday says that the 4 states failed to adequately dispute the point that this makes their entire elections invalid. First of all, these are only claims. All right, I highly doubt that the Supreme Court is going to take this up, and even if they do, they're probably going to dismiss it. So I wouldn't count on this being, the Kraken. I made a meme about that. I'm gonna drop that meme down in the chat. It's a funny meme. I think I might give you guys the TikTok link for that one. It's a meme of Sidney Powell. She remember she said she was going to unleash the Kraken. You remember that? She was going to unleash the Kraken, man. That was just wonderful. Unleash the Kraken on us. I find it funny whenever the people say that they're gonna.
I'm going to release the Kraken.
Let's see. I'm gonna share this. Copy the link. Let me go ahead and drop it in the chat for you guys, so you can enjoy this meme. It's a wonderful meme. I make wonderful memes, man. I make wonderful memes. But anyways, so we've covered basically 3 stories. I want you guys to know that I will keep this podcast running every day, but we're gonna get into some more news stories because I want to cover some news of the weird guys. So we're gonna go and cover some interesting news stories. Let's go back to the live scene real quick. That's my Unleash the Kraken meme. So we're gonna go over to CNN. We covered Newsmax, covered NBC, covered MSNBC, we covered Fox. Let's go over to CNN. That's gonna be our news of the weird segment. CNN's always giving us something crazy. What? Oh my God. Oh my God. This is gonna be a live stream clipping right here, guys. All right, so this is a bombshell if true. White House Chief of Staff told FDA Chief vaccine must be authorized Friday or he needs to resign. They are rushing this vaccine, man. I covered one from Fox News. I also covered one from Newsmax, where it's pretty clear that the Trump administration, even though he's a bit of a lame duck at this point, they've been rushing this vaccine. I've been telling people to also put out the vaccine quickly, so that basically it could just be out there, right? But I will say that I do have some reservations because Jim Acosta is involved. It's written by Caitlin Collins, Kevin grudge against Donald Trump, but White House Chief of Staff told FDA Chief vaccine must be authorized Friday or he needs to or he needs to resign. The fact that they actually mentioned the White House Chief of Staff by calling him out, well, that does add some credibility to the story now. It's in Washington. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows told FDA Commissioner Dr. Stephen Hahn he needed to grant an emergency use authorization for Pfizer/BioNTech's coronavirus vaccine by the end of Friday, and if not, he needs to resign. An administration official and a source familiar with the situation tells CNN. Another person familiar with that was familiar with the matter, who also confirmed the demand that the vaccine be authorized by the end of Friday, said President Donald Trump has been venting about the FDA chief since the vaccine was rolled out in the UK earlier this week. Now, I know for a fact that according to Newsmax and also Fox News that Donald Trump has been pushing for this vaccine to be approved immediately because I remember the exact same quote that he said. He said that the FDA is having a meeting on Thursday about the vaccine, whereas hopefully they will approve the vaccine from Pfizer, and then we also want them to immediately to approve the vaccine from Moderna almost immediately. I think that's almost word for word what the man said, because I actually covered that in another Pitchfork podcast. So I remember that quote because it stood out for me. So now that I'm reading this, it adds up. Because Donald Trump has been tweeting this shit for quite some time. And now I'm seeing this. It's like, so you're threatening to fire this man or asking him to resign, asking him to leave his job if he doesn't immediately approve a freaking virus vaccine that we clearly have not studied or researched nearly enough, right? And you know how the anti-vaxxers are going to respond. You know how people who are paranoid, with the government is going to respond. This is a freaking bombshell. If true, this is a bombshell. The two men had a call Friday morning. A White House official said they do not comment on private conversations, but the chief, quote, regularly requests updates on the progress toward a vaccine, end quote. Hahn quickly disputed the description of the conversation, which was first reported by the Washington Post, but the news is likely to raise additional questions about the extent to which Trump administration political interests are involved with the vaccine authorization process and could undermine public confidence in the effort. Vaccine advisors to the FDA voted Thursday to recommend the agency grant emergency use authorization to the vaccine, but it's expected to be authorized imminently. And it's expected to be authorized imminently. Quote, this is an untrue representation of the phone call with the chief of staff. The FDA was encouraged to continue working expeditiously on Pfizer BioNTech's emergency use authorization requests, end quote. Hahn said in a statement Friday afternoon, quote, FDA is committed to issuing this authorization quickly, as we noted in our statement this morning, end quote. So he is denying that this characterization of the conversation, he's saying that it's not accurate. Now, so I'm glad that they actually included that in the actual article, so that way, no one can say, "Oh, you just believe in everything." No, I read out the part whereas the guy was actually questioning the narrative and the characterization of the conversation. So I gave you both sides of it. All right, and I think that CNN did a great. It's very, very rare for me to actually say this about CNN. But they actually did a good job there. They actually gave both sides. They actually quoted, Hahn when he said, "Hey, this didn't happen the way you guys said it freaking happened," and that's commendable. They didn't misquote the guy. They actually quoted him. Whereas it was not so much one-sided. But there was a lot of things, a lot of mentions of when they kept saying things like, "Oh, a source close to the White House," or a source close to the situation. Guys, that's not journalism. That's just you giving out an anonymous source. Whereas someone like me, when I write an article or as I do a YouTube video, you're not gonna hear anonymous sources. And if you do, it's extremely rare. It's extremely rare. All right, I'm not a big fan of using anonymous sources because the main reason why is because if I start using anonymous sources that that you guys can't verify, you guys can't fact check, you guys can't follow. I mean, that would be such a disservice to you guys. So I do think that for the most part, CNN did a good job with that article by presenting both sides there. So I'm gonna leave a link down in the chat of that particular article, because I think it's very, very important that you guys read different articles from different sources. So send me a link in the chat right there, in the live chat. All right, so we're gonna go to some new articles here. We're gonna go in. Let's see. Let's change the screen to the live screen again. Yeah, I'm going at a breakneck pace. I know I am. I'm going. So we're going to One American News. We're gonna go take another right-wing source, because One American News is very pro-Trump. Don't get it twisted. OAN, whew, man, they are not anti-Trump. I'll tell you that much right now. So all right. So right here, OAN, One American News Network. I'm gonna leave a link to that article in the chat. We're gonna go over it, but we're gonna go ahead and give you guys a link. All right. So March for Trump to take place in Washington, D.C. this weekend. OAN will provide live coverage. All right. So we're gonna have another March for Trump. Another March for Trump. We're gonna march again at the White House at freaking DC, because our Cheeto Palpatine didn't win a freaking election. We're gonna go out there, be another super spreader event. Another one. People like, there's like, well, Black Lives Matter. They were outside protesting and everything. They're out, and yeah, they're paying the price for it. But they were also doing it during the summertime, for the most part, when it was warmer outside. You guys are doing this shit outside when it's November and December. When the virus is going to be rampaging through, and right now it is wrecking hospitals across the country. Meaning you can't even deny it anymore, because I'm pretty sure in your local area, this shit is not a small deal. The only way that it's not a small deal is if you live out in some rural area where everything's already pretty much like spread out. But if you live in like a big city, this shit is real. But anyways, says here, this article was put out by the OAN newsroom on Friday, December the 11th, 2020, which is today, at 10:10 a.m. Pacific time. Tens of thousands of President Trump supporters are set to descend on Washington, D.C. this weekend to demand transparency and protect election integrity. Okay. One American News will have a crew on the ground Saturday, December 12th, and will provide live coverage of the event. One America's Jack Posobiec spoke with an organizer for the quote-unquote March for Trump tour, and has more on what to expect. That's a little video of Jack Posobiec. So I mean, I think that's pretty interesting. I left a link down below. It's gonna be a March for Trump coming on this weekend on December the 12th at noon. It begins at Freedom Plaza, not at the Lincoln Memorial or National Mall as spread by fake news. Hashtag March for Trump to demand transparency and protect election integrity. President Trump, on Monday, the Electoral College is meeting up. They're gonna vote on the election. They're gonna vote on who receives the electoral votes. And Mr. Trump, I'm gonna tell you, it's looking more and more like it's gonna be Joe Biden. In fact, I'm gonna tell you right now, it is gonna be Joe Biden. I've been saying it for quite some time, but I think when it's gonna be real for people, when it's really, really gonna sink in, when you're really, really gonna see the violence on like the streets, you're gonna see the right acting like the right wing SJWs that I've always accused them of, is when the Electoral College certifies the results and the media puts it all over the TV screens and the internet screens and the YouTubes, the bit shoots. When the crowd from Parler and Twitter, when they get a hold of those Newslink articles, links, and they start posting everywhere, and they start reading, they start being like Spasmanian devils, spoiled little children. That's where you're gonna see all the fun. That's when you're gonna see demonstrations on the streets. I mean, it wouldn't be shocking to me, right, if immediately after Monday on Tuesday and going, and, you know, maybe not into the holiday season, but if you start seeing people just doing random violence on the goddamn streets, don't be shocked. Don't be surprised. I won't be. Because what we've done for the past 4 years is that we've coddled a certain mindset, a very childish mindset in which people who aren't used to losing, who aren't not so much not used to losing, but losing in a spectacular fashion in which they become embarrassed. Well, those people, they don't take losses so well. They're just like the SJWs who went marching during the Women's March. You remember that shit? With the freaking pussy hats, the freaking pink little pussy hats. You know? Except this time, the pussies are not on the heads. The pussies are right down there near the vaginal, the pubic types of areas, with all these crime bitching ass men who are more worried about the feelings of a goddamn multi-billionaire Trump than the American people. You know, so understand the difference. With the Women's March, the pussies were like way up here, because that's where the women hold their pussies. So we're up on the freaking pedestal. Whereas with the 2020, you know, outrage from the MAGA crowd, the pro-Trump crowd, the pussies aren't on the head. It's way down here where the where the freaking penises are supposed to be. You know, so you're gonna see some reeing on Saturday, Sunday, and also into Monday that you have not witnessed yet. You've witnessed some of the marches, some of the demonstrations, some of the pastors with the creepy laughs, and people who are just so delusional. Some of the content creators, you know, on YouTube who feed you lies and bullshit. If you thought you saw reeing and saw spasmanian devil actions before, wait until Saturday, because I'm gonna live stream that. I'm going to be live with it, and I'm going to live stream that whole thing. I'm going to show you all the fun. All the fun. You know, I'm not going to miss that for the world. I'm not going to miss that for the world. All right? Because I want you to understand exactly what is it that I'm talking about. I want you to see what I see when I see these people. I want you to see what I see. I want you to see all the craziness. See all the fun. And I want you to, on tomorrow, I want you to see how many masks you see. We are into December. We're seeing a record amount of cases. I want you to see how many masks you see on tomorrow. Anyways, guys, we'll take another 30-minute break. We're going to be right back with a Pitchfork Podcast. Guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to put something nice on the screen for you so that you can watch and you can be entertained until I come back with my sexy face. I'll be right back in 30 minutes, guys.
America must see.
I'll be back in 30 minutes, guys. Don't go anywhere.
Overnight, the outrage over an election, sparking protests from coast to coast and cities in between.
The only way we can lose, in my opinion, I really mean this, Pennsylvania, is if cheating goes on.
In that final result versus the final polls that were conducted, as an aggregate, it was a considerable differential. It will be larger this time.
It will be larger this time.
Yeah, about that.
How did you cope?
All right, everyone, as you may have seen, there's both very good news and very bad news. The very good news is that Donald Trump has fairly clearly won re-election.
Denial can be an ugly thing.
I think the Democrats are probably in full-on mental breakdown over the fact that they are losing support from the black community.
Yeah, about that.
We're seeing a transformation, particularly in the South, in states like Georgia that are usually solid red states that normally we would not be talking about Georgia as a state that is a significant in play in a presidential election. But we're in play because organizers on the ground, many of them associated with the work of Black Lives Matter and other social justice movements, have actually been organizing over the last decade, and now what you see is a result in Georgia.
Why did all those blacks in Georgia have the perception that people voting for Trump will deny atrocities that happen to black folk? Hey, Tim Pool, can you help us out with that?
Based on the video I've seen, based on the statements I've read, I am inclined to believe that while this is a horrifying tragedy, I do not believe it is a story of two white men who chased and ran down a man based on his race or anything like that. There's actually good reason, according to the New York Times, to suggest these men actually did have a reason
to believe that Ahmaud Arbery had committed a crime.
Yeah, about that.
The lead investigator in the case revealing one of the suspects overheard the man who shot Arbery call him the N-word after the shooting. Yes. The lead investigator for GBI's investigation, Richard Dial, also revealed this isn't the first time Travis McMichael has used the word, saying investigators found multiple instances of Travis McMichael using the word on social media and in messages.
But one particular one that comes to mind is he made a statement that he loved his job because he was out on a boat and there weren't any N-words anywhere.
Today, we're going to talk about the family of Breonna Taylor receiving a $12 million settlement in their wrongful death lawsuit against the city of Louisville, Kentucky. She was shot and killed by the police during a raid on her house. Now, the media are phrasing it in a way that did not actually happen.
Well, you see, Anthony Brian Logan, there's just one teensy-weensy little problem with your theory. You see, the grand jury, you know, those people who were supposed to be deciding criminal charges like murder for the cops, they had some pretty interesting things to say.
Grand juror number 1 and number 2 say what prompted them to ultimately speak out was that press conference held by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, which they insist falsely represented their position on potential indictments for the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death.
While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges are not applicable to the facts before us because our investigation showed, and the grand jury agreed, that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in the return of deadly fire.
When he stated that there were 6 possible murder charges and that the grand jury had agreed that those didn't apply, the first time I heard the word 6 possible murder charges was in that news conference.
It wasn't presented to you in the grand jury deliberations?
No. And personally, when I do something, I take responsibility for it. We had not done that.
I really felt that this was all camera. This was up to him. We didn't get a choice in that at all.
Overnight, the outrage over an election, sparking protests from coast to coast and cities in between.
The only way we can lose, in my opinion, I really mean this, Pennsylvania, is if cheating goes on.
In that final result versus the final polls that were conducted, as an aggregate, it was a considerable differential. It will be larger this time.
It will be larger this time.
Yeah, about that. How did you cope?
All right, everyone, as you may have seen, there's both very good news and very bad news. The very good news is that Donald Trump has fairly clearly won re-election.
Denial can be an ugly thing.
I think the Democrats are probably in full-on mental breakdown over the fact that they are losing support from the black community.
Yeah, about that.
We're seeing a transformation, particularly in the South, and states like Georgia that are usually solid red states that normally we would not be talking about Georgia as a state that is a significant in play in a presidential election. But we're in play because organizers on the ground, many of them associated with the work of Black Lives Matter and other social justice movements, have actually been organizing over the last decade. And now what you see is a result in Georgia.
Why did all those blacks in Georgia have the perception that people voting for Trump will deny atrocities that happen to black folk? Hey, Tim Pool, can you help us out with that?
Based on the video I've seen, based on the statements I've read, I am inclined to believe that while this is a horrifying tragedy, I do not believe it is a story of two white men who chased and ran down a man based on his race or anything like that. There's actually good reason, according to the New York Times, to suggest these men actually did have a reason
to believe that Ahmaud Arbery had committed a crime.
Yeah, about that.
The lead investigator in the case revealing one of the suspects overheard the man who shot Arbery call him the N-word after the shooting. The lead investigator for GBI's investigation, Richard Dial, also revealed this isn't the first time Travis McMichael has used the word, saying investigators found multiple instances of Travis McMichael using the word on social media and in messages.
But one particular one that comes to mind is he made a statement that he loved his job because he was out on a boat and there weren't any N-words anywhere.
Today, we gotta talk about the family of Breonna Taylor receiving a $12 million settlement in their wrongful death lawsuit against the city of Louisville, Kentucky. She was shot and killed by the police during a raid on her house. Now, the media are phrasing it in a way that did not actually happen.
Well, you see, Anthony Bryan Logan, there's just one teensy-weensy little problem with your theory. You see, the grand jury, you know, those people who were supposed to be deciding criminal charges like murder for the cops, they had some pretty interesting things to say.
Grand juror number 1 and number 2 say what prompted them to ultimately speak out was that press conference held by Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, which they insist falsely represented their position on potential indictments for the officers involved in Breonna Taylor's death.
While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges are not applicable to the facts before us because our investigation showed, and the grand jury agreed, that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in the return of deadly fire.
When he stated that there were 6 possible murder charges and that the grand jury had agreed that those didn't apply, the first time I heard the word 6 possible murder.
All right, guys, we're going to be wrapping up the show pretty soon. But before we do so, guys, we have some sad news for you. Some real sad news, guys. I have to report some bad news. We have lost another icon in 2020. Tommy Lister Jr. He is one of the greatest, set actors that I've ever seen in terms of him playing those freaking roles. He was Debo in Friday. He was iconic. When people think bully, they think Debo, and they think this guy. He played in a lot of roles, man. He was in Battlestar Galactica. He was in a lot of stuff, man. He'll be missed. Tommy Lester, dead at 62. 2020, you've claimed yet another icon, a man who not only played the role but even looked the role. I mean, if a guy that looks like that would have walked up to you, you're not talking smack to him. So, once again, 2020, fuck you. Fuck you for taking yet another icon, man. You took Debo from us. Debo, he played some role of the guy named Debo in Friday, and Friday is a cult classic. It was starring Ice Cube and Chris Tucker. And Tommy Lister, he played the role of the neighborhood bully in Debo, and he played that role so well that to this very day, people whenever someone gets like bullied or like bossed on or like beat up or anything, they say, you know, oh, you just got freaking Debo'd. You know, people have been saying that for more than a decade now because of that one role. And Tommy Lister, Tommy Lester, he was actually a very, very nice guy. You know, he was a hardcore Christian too. You know, if you watch a lot of the evangelist stuff that he did, you know, his faith was very, very important to him. He was one of the nicest guys ever. Like, he was big, scary looking. You did not want to get into a fight with him because he would probably beat the living bejesus out you. But he was a sweet guy. He didn't want to hurt people. Just wanted to act. And you know, Friday is a big part of me. I mean, I love that movie. I love those movies, man. You know, a lot of my humor is modeled partially from those movies, man. You know, I felt that Friday was a great movie, and I think that Ice Cube did a great job with that. And Tommy Lester, he made that movie work. You know, I mean, Smokey, who's played by Chris Tucker, by Chris Tucker, was a great character too. I mean, fantastic character. But Tommy Lester's bully in Debo, that made it work. So Tommy Lester, dead at 60-2. 2020 has taken yet another icon from us. Fuck you, 2020. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the Pitchfork Podcast. Tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I cover news stories. I cover the latest news. I give you the news stories, guys. Tomorrow, I'm going to be live streaming the Trump rally. It's going to be happening in Washington, D.C. It's going to be spicy, uber duper spicy. And I'm going to go ahead and show you all the spicy goodness, okay? Spicy meat, yeah, boy. Oh, my God. Thank you for tuning in, guys. This is Dion McNeil, a.k.a. Devil's Advocate, a.k.a. the journalist with the pitchfork. I will catch you guys on the flip side. Horns up and peace out.